pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair situated. Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. Next is roll call. Colleen.
Mayor Rosner,
Here.
Councillor Young,
Here.
Councillor Browse,
Here.
Councillor Stanky,
Here.
Councillor Scott,
Here.
Councillor Giles,
Here.
and Councillor Mays is absent.
All right. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say the same. Motion passes. Thank you, council. On the consent agenda tonight, we have two items. Item A is approval of the July 15th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. And item B is resolution 2025-061, appointing members of the Sherwood Youth Advisory Board. We have one of them here tonight too. We have a motion?
I move consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda and appointing our inaugural Sherwood Youth Advisory Board, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Is there any chance?
Well, let me finish. Okay. No, with no opposition, that motion passes. So thank you. We passed our consent agenda and yeah, I know where you're going, Taylor. And yeah, we actually have one of our newly appointed Youth Advisory Board members here tonight. So thank you so much for volunteering for that role. I think Councillor Giles wanted to see if you wanted to say anything,
Well,
but you don't have to.
yeah, you don't have to, but I was curious.
Okay, why don't you come up to the mic?
It's on, I think.
Yeah, red means on for that. So welcome to the meeting. Go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about why you volunteered to be on the Youth Advisory Board.
Hi, my name is Prachi and I'm 14 years old, so I'll be a freshman in high school this fall. So as a member of the Youth Advisory Board, I really strive to have teens in our community, like have events for them and just like boost teen engagement with these events. Because there are often so many events for adults, but let's say, for example, at the library, and there are many events for children, but teens are right in the middle. They're in the middle of childhood and adulthood. And I often just notice that there are not a lot of events. And one of my goals is to make sure that there are enough events for teens, which aligns with their values and just their passions and interests, and just kind of get teens engaged with these events. Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
That's so true and very well said.
Yeah.
That was very well
I
said.
think you're got a head start on the chair of the board too. Is the only one who showed up tonight. Thank you. Very well spoken.
She's an Energizer bunny too.
Oh, very cool.
Lots of fun.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to, I mean, kind of did citizen comments, but we'll go do citizen comments. Do we have anybody? Did you get any forms? Okay. And I don't see anybody online, so we will go right to our public hearing. So we have a public hearing tonight on ordinance 2025-004, amending the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code to add chapter 16.81 annexation code and amend the chapter 16.72 procedures for processing the development permits. Do you want to read us in, Colleen?
Sure. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff will present the staff report. Questions, if any, by the city council for staff. Receive any written testimony. We will then open the public hearing for testimony, and time will be limited to 4 minutes per person. Any interested person may present testimony. We will then close the public hearing. Final comments by staff, question of staff, if any, by council, and discussion by the council. This is the first hearing before the city council on this item. Generally, council will hold 2 hearings prior to making a decision. The second hearing on this item is currently scheduled for September 2nd. However, in accordance with the city charter, council reserves the right to make a decision at the close of this hearing by unanimous vote of all sitting council members. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of the request to speak forms and submit it to the city recorder. Prior to the time of the public hearing is open for testimony. The mayor will recognize people who wish to speak, and any comments must be addressed through the mayor. When you come forward, please state your name, place of residence for the record, as this hearing will be recorded. Please speak clearly into the microphone. In reaching a decision on this item, council may be required to consider whether the matter meets relevant approval criteria and other applicable law. If applicable, those criteria are identified in the staff report. Testimony and evidence must address these criteria and other criteria you believe to apply to the decision.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Eric. Before we kick it off, we have Carrie Richter, our land use attorney, is with us on Zoom tonight. I just promoted Carrie so she can talk too. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We got you. Thank you, Mayor Resident, City Councilors. Eric Rutledge, Community Development Director with the city, joined by Sean Conrad, our Planning Manager. Obviously, as mentioned, Carrie Richter online. I also just want to really thank Hugo, our Associate Planner, who really did the heavy lifting on this annexation code and getting it to this point. So
Thank you.
a team effort to get here. I'm going to turn it straight over to Sean, and I'll finish out the presentation towards the end.
Thanks, Eric. Good evening, council members. So tonight you have in front of you a proposal by the city of Sherwood to amend the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code to add annexation procedures and approval criteria. So this would be specifically adding chapter 1681, a new chapter in the zoning code titled annexations. This is a type 5 legislative process, so it will require city council approval to be included into the zoning code. Just briefly, some background information. Agencies were notified back in March of this year. Comments were received in April. Public notice was provided in April of a public hearing. We did have the public hearing just recently in July. One person was in attendance and provided comment, but that was it. We also received 3 public comments from the following agencies. Metro staff provided some comments to City of Sherwood staff. Thousands Friends of Oregon and Housing Land Advocates and Fair Housing Council of Oregon also provided comments. Those comments are addressed in your staff report, which is the recommendation from the Plan Commission. And just briefly for background, the proposed annexation standards in front of you tonight further the following council goal, which is to create annexation policies and a process to manage growth in the community. So the standards include a process to evaluate the infrastructure, school capacity, and long-term community needs based on individual properties coming in front of you for annexation. The annexation standards would apply to all those areas outside city limits, but within the urban growth boundary of Sherwood. So the 3 major areas right now would be the Tonquin Employment Area, which is primarily industrial lands, the Brookman Addition, primarily residential lands, primarily residentially zoned lands, and Sherwood West, which will be a mixture of industrial, residential, and hospitality district. The standards in front of you include both the Oregon Revised Statutes, Chapter 222 standards, Metro Code Chapter 3.09, which applies to local government boundary changes, and the City of Sherwood's comprehensive plan policies. Now, up till now, all of the annexation requests have followed those 3 criteria. The standards in front of you include those 3 criteria and add some additional criteria for your consideration tonight, which Eric will get into.
Thank you, Sean. Just to get into some of the details of the code, and we've done a few work sessions on this, so I won't get into too many details, but happy to answer questions at the end if you have any or clarify anything. But first of all, the purpose. 3 main things. As Sean mentioned, we don't have code that governs annexations right now. And so while we have comprehensive plan policy, council and staff have identified a need to really clarify the approval criteria, submittal requirements, but also the procedures at the local level that govern annexation. So that's the first purpose. Really, this concept of annexation code came when we were doing planning for Sherwood West, but we also identified a need citywide as well, as Sean mentioned. And really it was around infrastructure and making sure that as we brought land into the city, the public utilities, water, sewer, storm, transportation were provided at adequate levels and at the right time, appropriate time, given the proposed development. So I'd say that's really the core of what we're trying to get to here with this code. And then third is to ensure consistency with our own long-range planning documents, comprehensive plan, utility master plans, et cetera. There's approval criteria, for example, to conform to our utility master plans. And so just that extra layer to ensure awareness of the city's master plans and then reach compliance with those through development. So that's the background and the purpose. In terms of the review procedures, there's two types of annexations that we may receive, two types of applications for an annexation. First is quasi-judicial, second is legislative. And without getting into the details of all of those, I'll just say we're based on the size of the annexation, the scope of the annexation and any development, and a few other factors, we would determine if it's quasi-judicial or legislative. Most of the annexations we get are likely to be legislative annexations. Quasi-judicial would be a type 4, legislative would be type 5. Both of them would come to city council for a final approval. So in all cases, city council is the final decision maker on annexations. As we were getting through the process with planning commission, they did note that typically for type 4 and type 5, there is a recommendation from planning commission before it gets to city council. We don't have that in the code right now. It's more typical for annexation procedures to go straight and applications to go straight to city council. So that's the process we've followed. But planning commission did want, and the chair did want to make clear to you guys, if you guys felt that there was a benefit to having them review the annexation proposals before they come to you, they're more than happy to do that. My opinion is like, sure, I think that could be beneficial. I think there's pros and cons to it. It's going to take a little bit more time to get through the whole process, but you're going to have some extra eyes on it with people that are in the plan, with volunteers that are in the planning world here in Sherwood. So I think staff recommendation is if you feel like that would be productive and helpful before it gets to you guys, like we can absolutely do that, and it'd be a quick change to the code, and we'll bring that back in September for adoption. So a potential discussion item for you guys as to whether or not you want planning commission to review these prior. Let's see. So again, process, everything in the end, even if it's a planning commission recommendation, city council is decision maker and appeal will go to LUBA. In terms of the submittal requirements, I won't go into detail, just to say that we've added some clarifications to the submittal requirements. We do expect with the new code, the submittal to be more thorough than it has been in the past, mainly around infrastructure and ensuring adequate infrastructure. For example, a transportation study, typically we haven't required that at annexation. That's something that we would want as part of the new code to ensure transportation facilities are provided with the development, just as an example. And then zoning, the zone that council adopts as part of the comprehensive plan is what would be applied at annexation. So some cities have it's called a two-step process or a two-map system, where at annexation, a developer proposes a zone. That wouldn't be the case they can do that, but it wouldn't be a typical approach. You guys are going to set the zoning as part of comprehensive planning. If the developer doesn't propose something else concurrent with their annexation, we'll just apply the zoning that the comp plan identifies. So it's a one map system. Upon annexation, it gets zoned whatever the comp plan says. This code, however, does allow for concurrent review of a zone change. So they could apply for annexation and a zone change at the same time if they wanted to, and you guys would decide on those. And then really getting to really the meat, I think, of the code is the approval criteria and annexation agreements. First on the approval criteria. So again, this is just another layer in addition to the existing comprehensive plan policies. Just to give a few examples of the approval criteria: adequate public facilities in accordance with the master plans, dedication of parks, trails, and open space to the city at the latest would be concurrent with development, but they would agree to that with the annexation agreement. Subject to any constitutional taking law. We can't violate the Constitution with the annexation agreement, so we would take a look for that. And then, one that has gotten some attention from, and it's in the letter from the HBA, and I will speak to that shortly. The annexation is in the city's best interest. And we did tie that to the comprehensive plan. So the language in the code right now says the annexation is in the best interest of the city when evaluated against the city's comprehensive plan. So it's a little bit more detailed than some of the other codes. Other cities will just have in the city's best interest. We took that as a step further to provide some additional clarity to the development community and property owners to say, in the best interest when evaluated against the comp plan. So if you're in conformance with the comp plan, it should be deemed to be in the city's best interest, but that would be a decision for the council to make at that time.
So by adding that language, we're essentially saying, we're removing the ambiguity of the best interest, which I think was a concern of the HBA, by saying the best interest is defined by the comp plan. And so as long as you're
Correct.
in alignment with that, then you're in alignment with the best interest.
Correct. And just to be transparent, what I'll say about the comp plan, and I think everyone knows this, the comp plan is, has different interests, I guess, or different policies that may compete with each other at
Sure.
times. And so that would be up to the council. So there could still
They're
be.
weighing those things. We would be weighing
You
those
guys would be
things.
weighing
Yeah.
those things, but it's under the provisions of the comp plan and under the policy of the comp plan.
Yeah, but it's transparent in that if you're generally following the comp plan and you're weighing these things appropriately, you're going to be meeting that criteria. If so I think that should give any potential applicant some peace of mind that, okay, we're doing our homework and we're seeing the comp plan and we're seeing what's in there. Then this is not an ambiguous criteria that the city council is going to be able to come in and make it anything they want in the end, right? Like we're putting structure behind it that is I would say non-ambiguous.
Yeah, and what I'd say is, it ties the decision to adopted policy.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which is important.
Yep.
And so it's not just.
You just put a really fine point on that for people listening. Under our current policy, it's just in the best interest of the city, which is completely subjective, and the council could decide whatever they want. So this isn't like new rules. This is actually explaining and providing clarity for people that want to bring land into the city.
Correct. And I think that's a kind of a big picture, some of the testimony, some of the conversations we've had, I think that point is missed with some of the stakeholders that outside, the city doesn't have to adopt this code, and we can still process annexations today without this code. But those policies are just what's in the comp plan, and it's more discretionary, less certainty, less detail on submittal requirements, et cetera, than the proposed code. And so while stakeholders may not think the code is perfect, what I would argue is it's a much better, process than what we have now, which still allows what's on the books now allows discretion and allows these things that some of the concerns are raising. And so hopefully this actually moves things closer to certainty and certainty, predictability for the property owners.
And just another question. So for land that's already in the city for like a permit to build a house or something, we have to follow the state rules around clear and objective standards. That doesn't apply to annexation, correct?
Correct. Clear and objective standards do not apply to annexation code, and I'll speak to that.
But we're proactively choosing to create some clarity on our
Exactly.
annexation
With the
policy.
code. Correct. Yep. Thank you for that clarification.
Question on so you mentioned the competing standards. Does that mean that like, hey, this developer or these people are applying for annexation that is gonna have a little more density or they're, than we have in our plan, but they're donating a big park or something that, and so we get to weigh that to say, hey, we're willing to have, the increased zoning, but is that what you're talking about?
Not
Competing-
exactly. What I meant was, the comprehensive plan is comprehensive, right? It
Yeah.
covers employment, it covers housing, it covers environmental, it covers really everything that the city might, be looking at and weighing when it comes to growth and development. And so you guys will have the ability to weigh all of those different policies to determine. So for example, a project may really check one box of a comprehensive plan policy, but be in contradiction with another one.
Okay.
And so you guys would have the ability to weigh, what is the most important policy given this property, given this proposal, and, weigh those potentially those policies that may be in conflict with each other and determine which one outweighs the other.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
But if I could just follow on to Taylor's question, but just like a PUD, if a developer came in and said, hey, we want to do X, Y, Z, maybe it's a higher density like we did over off Murdoch with that that's going in over there in exchange. We got a large park out of that. We can still do that. We can still do those creative solutions with the builder. We're not creating any kind of barriers for that.
I think it's important that we have to maintain the distinction between an annexation and a PUD or a development plan, which is a separate part of the process.
Yeah, the annexation would come first.
Yeah.
What I would say is it would be a different process to get to the outcome that you're talking. We would get to the outcome potentially through the annexation application and agreement, and we could also, if we forego that, could get it as part of the PUD as well. So this would just be an earlier opportunity. But for example, we could do it through the annexation agreement to say, hey, our parks master plan clearly identifies a park on this property. Again, subject to constitutional takings laws, the annexation agreement would have them dedicate that park with some detail on, potential improvements. They get to come in, they come into the city, and then we would process the land use application. But the annexation agreement has already handled the dedication. So, we don't have to do it through the annexation agreement. We could do it through the land use, but I think this is just an earlier process to ensure that we get conformance with the Parks Master Plan, for example.
Yeah.
So it's another earlier opportunity.
But wouldn't they want to know at that point that they will dedicate some land to a park and know what they will get out of that?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And it gets to actually my next point, which is annexation agreements. And what I'll say about those is, just to play out this example, we could have an annexation agreement that says you deliver this park and dedicate it to the city. Maybe they improve it as well, maybe not. By the way, you are very clearly eligible for park SDC credits as part of that. And so we would kind of front load that conversation as well and give them a guarantee that they may get SDC credits as part of the annexation agreement. So ideally it and then they have that guarantee that's in an agreement. So it's not a question as to whether they're going to qualify for the credit later on, and it's a little more risky for them. Potentially the city might just say no or have a different interpretation on code for what applies for a credit. And so it provides that certainty to the developer up front as well.
So we can actually create a lot of certainty up front before the land even comes in.
I think if we get this code right, and it's if we get the code right, ideally it's a win-win for both sides.
That provides certainty for the whoever's bringing the property in and for the city.
Correct.
So we've gone to this agreement, we've reached an agreement where you get some things, we get some things, and then it's all backed by the agreement. Yeah.
I'm stuck on something that I think I heard you say about weighing priorities. That seems very subjective to me. So are there standards that we'll be able to follow? Or are it sounds like a whim almost.
Well, it's a legislative process.
Okay.
And so I think, most all the legislative processes are going to be like that. This is, a legislative process, you guys creating policy basically. And the policy is, and Carrie, jump in here if I'm getting off, but the policy, so to speak, is you guys annexing the land. And so it is up to you to weigh those things. It does not need to be clear and objective. It does not need to be based on, any necessarily any criteria that, is quasi judicial in nature, I guess, where it's very clear that we're weighing this against this. Again, it's legislative. You guys are deciding if the land should come into the city or not as the legislators.
Yeah, and under the current law, it's pretty much subjective.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, and it's not, again, Counselor Browse, it's that's basically how it is right now. The metro, if we go to the metro code for annexations, right, so there really are multiple layers. What the metro code says about annexations is the annexation conforms to the adopted comprehensive plan of the city. And so even at the metro regional level, they are saying that any proposal for annexation has to conform to the comprehensive plan. And again, you look at the comp plan, it covers all these things and they're naturally competing.
I mean, there does come a point with annexations where it isn't up to our discretion, because once somebody's annexed in and then a property that abuts it, they have that through that one bill from like 2016, 17.
Yeah, so even with SB 1573, which is the bill that if certain criteria are met, the city cannot send the annexation to the voters. Even with that, that state law also says that the annexation conforms to and it's even broader than the comp plan. It just says that the annexation conforms to the policies of the city, basically.
Okay.
And so you can't send it to the voters, but you guys can still decide if it conforms to the policies of the city.
Gotcha.
And reject it potentially.
I've just never heard it explained this way, so thank you.
So the example that popped to my mind right when you said it was, hey, we want to have at some point this hospitality zone in our comprehensive plan. And we want to have this different housing and industrial land. And it might just be a question of timing, right? Maybe we don't want the hospitality zone until we built some of the housing up. And if we were to build all housing or something, we might say, hey, we don't need another housing project annexation before we get some commercial, or, you know what I mean? Like, is that the competing priorities where we say, yeah, we want all of this eventually, but we want to balance it and do it in a.
I don't know that I would argue that that would be a valid reason for denying, but.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
that's why I'm checking it with you. Is that the competing priorities where?
Yeah, let me clarify. So we have policies in the comp plan, for example, around housing that, let's use a different example. Let's use the example of, no, let's use housing. So housing, for example, right? Of course, the state is in a housing crisis. Metro's in a housing crisis. Sherwood needs more housing as well. The comp plan policies are going to say, you know, we should encourage housing. We should encourage affordable housing, of course, housing for all community members. We're also going to have a provision in the comp plan that talks about working with the school district to ensure that they have the capacity to serve all of the students in the school district. And so if we have too much housing and the school district can't accommodate that, then potentially, you know, that the policy that we have in the comp plan related to school capacity, then we have a concern there. And so then we could make a finding on that policy. You could use that example for, you know, there, again, the policies in the comp plan, there's a lot of them and they cover a lot of different topics. And so at the time, you guys are going to be weighing that proposal against all of the comprehensive plan policies and weighing whether or not this land should be brought in, the benefits of bringing in the land versus the potential impacts of bringing in the land.
I think another really good example would be you could have a situation where the state passes a law that you can build housing and industrial land. And it's really important to us that our jobs land is jobs land. So we could decide it as a council to have that annexation agreement to make sure that it's jobs land when it comes in. You know, so it also creates opportunity for us on those to make sure that we're, at least for me, making sure that we're delivering in the comprehensive plan and future development what we promised in the concept plan. Yeah.
Agreed.
Just finishing the comments on annexation agreements. So what I'll say is that they're common throughout the Portland Metro and the state. Many cities use them. We did include an example annexation agreement in the packet. It's from Reed's Crossing, City of Hillsborough. Probably a pretty good example of what the city might be going after with an annexation agreement. The annexation agreement would run with the land. So it goes with the land, not with the property owner. So if it sells, annexation agreement still valid. And then the agreement would outline the proposed development, the provision and timing of infrastructure. If we do need to get into a financial agreement with, you know, credits or anything like that, it would outline those terms as well. City council is the final decision maker on the annexation agreement as well. They're going to be worked on by staff and then brought to council. And, you know, if for some reason we miss something, you guys would have the opportunity to amend those before final adoption. And then just moving along. So this is the review criteria for this proposed code amendment. I won't get into details, just to say the staff report addresses all of the applicable criteria for approval. As Sean mentioned, we did get public testimony. We got testimony from Metro. They only commented to ensure that the public noticing was adequately covered to them, that we covered gave them enough time. And then they did want to work with us on fine tuning some of the language of the code. So we did that. Nothing of substance on the record though from Metro. We did get comments from Thousand Friends of Oregon, Housing Land Advocates, Fair Housing Council. They did express concern about the code's compliance with statewide planning goals. We've taken a really close look at that testimony. We've worked with our land use attorney and we've responded to all of the concerns in the staff in the Planning Commission recommendation. Frankly, we really appreciate the engagement and the feedback. I think it's frankly good to get some testimony, even if it's in opposition, to really see kind of a counter argument. So we appreciate the testimony. We don't think that there is any issues with the proposed code as it relates to state law, and all those findings are in the staff report. And then the last piece of testimony, almost wrapped up here. We did get testimony a few hours ago from the Home Builders Association of Greater Portland. Again, I really appreciate their testimony and weighing in. We will, just because it was written testimony, what we'll do is slightly revise the staff report and the PC recommendation to address these comments for the next packet and for adoption. But just really quickly, the three main comments that were raised in that letter, which you guys have, clear and objective standards, which we clarified earlier. Clear and objective standards do not apply to annexation code or annexation approvals. And so while we absolutely respect and implement that law when it needs to be applied, it does not need to be applied in this case. The other concern was timing of site-specific studies and proportionality, including the impact studies. The impact studies being required to study the maximum allowed land use intensity. And what that is they're going to give us studies to show that the site can be served by infrastructure. And what the code says is you got to deliver the study at the most intense land use possible on that site based on the zoning. Understood that if it was left there, that could be a concern because then they could be over delivering on the infrastructure. What we did is there's a subsection right under this section that says the applicant can also study what is required just for their project, and then we can deliver and require the infrastructure at that level. So it's not a all or nothing, full infrastructure. We also provide an out, frankly, to deliver it at the level required for their development.
And kind of my read into why we did that is if you go back to like HB 2001 and some of these rules that came out of Salem, developers have a lot of power to choose what type of housing. So if you plan a neighborhood for single family detached and you size your sewer system for that, they come in and build 4 quads. That's a problem. So we have to understand what that maximum intensity looks like.
It's a great point. There is a lot of variability in how much density a site can get under the state law, under the state laws now. And so we need to be able to plan for that. However, if they truly are doing something less, then we could also agree to deliver something at that lesser intensity.
Annexation agreement.
And then the last comment was around annexation timelines and basically expressing some concern that these applications may never, I guess, get to you, or you may never take action on them. What I'll say is, Sherwood has indicated, a willingness to grow in the right places at the right time. We just did a UGB expansion, of course, to plan for our growth. The legal response is that because these are mainly legislative, you guys don't actually have to act on them, but that would be your discretion. Even quasi-judicial, it's not considered a permit or a zone change or another type of action that requires, inaction.
There's no clock.
Correct. There's no clock. And so while absolutely like, especially if it's a good proposal, like it will get to you guys and there will be a decision. However, respectfully, legally, you don't have to. And that's just the law. I don't think we're going to advocate to change that law. So,
And there could be a future council that decides to just not do anything, but that's not how we've been acting for as long as I can remember. We act on this stuff. So.
yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that's good government. People deserve a yes or no answer.
And I know where that question comes from because you do have jurisdictions out there
Yeah, that just sit on
that
stuff.
play those games.
Yeah.
I do have a question around this section. It kind of applies to what you led with it earlier and I wrote it down and then that came up here. And the concern about annexation timelines. If the applicant / developer was so choosing, they don't have to do this, but if they chose, would they be able to process a application for a annexation and then kind of start the planning process with the city at the same time? So that they could voluntarily kind of reduce their clock if they wanted to work it that way. Now, obviously, they're introducing some risk if the annexation got denied, but is that even an option for them, or do they really have to wait until there's annexation before they could start the planning process?
Good question.
Or at least pre-planning process.
Yeah, so certainly I'm pre-planning, like, so pre-application conference is our typical pre-planning, like, absolutely, we'll hold those pre-app conferences, while an annexation is pending, that's not a problem. I don't want to say for sure that we could do a concurrent review, like a formal concurrent review of a land use application with annexation. If Carrie's got a quick response, I'll take it. Otherwise, we can get back to you on that one.
It could shorten the process though. It wouldn't be concurrent, but in addition, if I understand it right, if, part of it is the transportation piece. So when we get to post annexation and actually into the nuts and bolts of plan review and permitting, they can just build on that transportation study, or if it meets the criteria, just use it.
Correct. That's
So
great.
we're not asking them to double up on the work.
Right. Correct. Carrie, any input on the concurrent review?
So if an applicant had a annexation application along with a subdivision, the city could process them together. But the subdivision couldn't be approved until the annexation was approved. And
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. I apologize.
What would happen is the city might approve the subdivision with a condition that says the annexation has to be approved. I would think that no applicant would go through the trouble of having an engineer design a subdivision without, having an annexation first.
Okay.
Thank you.
But to your earlier point, like, absolutely, we can work with developers. Frankly, we've already been meeting with developers interested in Sherwood West. I mean, that's how early and willing we are to meet with people and talk through plans and proposals. So,
yeah.
And then just to wrap things up, Planning Commission recommendation is for approval. They did make minor revisions to the code for clarification. And you have that full recommendation in your packet. Your alternatives for this evening. We recommend holding the first hearing, taking any public testimony, obviously holding the second hearing as well, which will be on September 2nd, getting through that hearing, taking any testimony, and then your options are approve based on the Planning Commission recommendation, approve with the amended code language or findings. You can deny the application, or as we discussed, not take any action on the proposed legislation. Happy to take any further questions.
I have some comments, but I'll reserve them for discussion time.
Same here.
Any other questions?
I had one.
Yeah.
You mentioned the planning commission review as a possibility. As far as staff time and planning commission, like, bandwidth for that, is that even feasible?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're, at this point, planning department, planning commission, they go together. And so it wouldn't be that big of a lift for us to take this through initially.
Okay, because it would be nice. They do know more than we do as far as planning stuff, or a different perspective of it.
Yep.
And so that'd be great. Yeah.
Well, if I could just comment on that too, I think if the staff, we can handle it staff times wise, because of some of the criteria we're laying out here in terms of some of the studies that need to be done. We have some wonderful people on the planning commission. They have a lot of knowledge. I would like to have their eyes. So,
I was gonna save that till after as well, but I was gonna say I would prefer this go through planning as well. And I mean, you're preparing it for city council anyways, so just a little bit sooner for them before it gets to us, but they always are very thorough and, you know, not that we're not as well, but they see things that we don't see sometimes, so.
awesome. Any other questions?
I was gonna just add, is there any way to accelerate it, right? Their big concern was we don't want it to be slowed down by going through them, but I'm in agreement that I'd love another set of eyes, especially some of those eyes that are on the council or on the commission currently. Is there a way to make it so that it's, you know, faster? Like, so that the people that are applying are not saying, shoot, it's another 6 months, right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be 6 months. You know, I could see this adding about a month to an approval.
Okay.
What I'll say is, you know, especially for legislative, if, you know, bringing land into the city on a permanent, you know, basis is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it seems like the month for that additional review by, you know, local representatives, probably a good thing.
If it's just a month, it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
I'd say that's about what you're looking at. It's about
Okay.
a month to 6 weeks
Yeah,
of additional
okay.
time.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer for me.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at this point. Do we have anybody, Colleen? And we have no one online, so I will close the public hearing at this point. So now we're to council discussion. We don't have everyone here tonight, so we can't approve it tonight, even if we wanted to. But do we have any additional discussion? I think you said you had.
Yeah, looking at the list of concerns submitted by the Home Builders Association, and I appreciate them for their input. I think we talked pretty extensively about number 1 and number 2 on their list. I did want to just talk a little bit about number 2 with requires impact analysis, including transportation studies based on assuming the maximum intensity land use is authorized by the zoning district. We talked a little bit about that a bit ago, but I just wanted to kind of dive a little deeper here. The reason we have to do this is because the governor and the state legislature have, over the last 3 or 4 sessions in Salem, greatly reduced, in some cases eliminated, or are on the precipice of eliminating much of the local control that we have to determine what goes where when we add land to the city, and what's the density that's going to get built, how many units are going to get built per acre, what type of housing is going to build. All of that control is rapidly being taken away from us and from the residents of the city. And the residents of the city are losing pretty quickly their ability to weigh in on this and have any impact over this through their elected officials or through the public process. And even so far as Salem is strongly signaling that their next intent is to actually remove citizens from any kind of planning process or any, giving any input into the planning process. There won't be public hearings allowed if Salem gets what they're probably going to do next. Citizens won't have the ability to even give input, let alone hear about these things. They'll just happen behind the scenes without the public process happening. So it's already happening.
Type of developments.
So that is why we have to assume it would be a dereliction of our duties not to assume the largest possible impact on public infrastructure and plan for, and to require them to do studies on that effect. As Eric mentioned, if they choose, they can do an impact assessment for what they actually plan to build if it's less than the maximum, and then they get held accountable to that. Okay, you're not going to do the maximum. You're saying in your impact analysis in your annexation application that you're going to do half, is not the right term, but half of the maximum. Then great, you don't have to pay for the full study, but you also can't then come back later and change it after the fact, right? So I think this is more than fair. And again, it's not a policy that is driven by any intent or desire on the part of the city. It's driven by the elected representatives in Salem, who are removing rapidly, be in front of all of our eyes, all local control in the planning process, and how citizens and residents see their cities develop going forward in the future. Thank you.
Well said. Any other comments? Taylor?
So I've actually spent the last couple of weeks meeting with different builders and groups and things like that. And one of the things that I just want to avoid in all of this is to, and I understand the the desire to make sure that we are protected for the worst case scenario, but I want to also be careful that we don't assume the worst case scenario is going to happen. And so while I agree with you that we do want to, make sure the pipes are big enough, right? It's too big to expand those after they're in the ground. You got to replace them. So, so I agree that, we're kind of being forced into this, but I also have talked to a lot of builders that are like, we want to be partners in figuring out what's going to go there because we know that that's going to sell the best, right? I mean, it's just me, my mic again. Okay.
I can agree.
It is your mic. No, okay, all right. Anyway.
I have a secret button I can.
Yeah, well, so I because I keep hearing, there is a lot of fear, and so I would rather, rather than, put up walls about, hey, we're not going to allow, this or that, to be, how can we partner with them? And it's a subtle attitude change, but I just want to, we want affordable housing in Sherwood, right? And so, but we just want it done right, right? We want it to look, the right way. And I saw some developments that were in Bend and some in Redmond, and that are just like, I'd move in tomorrow. They looked great, and they were under $300,000, and and I was just like, wow, these are the kinds of things that I would love to see in Sherwood West.
Just to
Anyway,
clarify, it is not the adopted position or policy position of the city of Sherwood that we want affordable housing. We have not had that. We've not adopted that policy.
I'll clarify. I want to have affordable housing in Sherwood.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if I could just weigh in a little bit on that, I think when we're talking, like when you write a contract with someone, contracts always have to assume the worst case scenario. And I think that's what our conversations have been about, in whether it's public infrastructure or what's going to happen. I view these annexation agreements as a tool to do exactly what you're talking about. Sit down with us, and we'll work with you, and we'll get to an agreement, and then we all sign on the dotted line that we agree to that. And then we hold ourselves accountable to that. So contracts, annexation agreements, there's this uncomfortable part, even in the private sector, when you're writing like an employment contract, there's this uncomfortable part where you feel like, well, I'd never do that, but we have to contemplate those worst case scenarios just to hold each other accountable. But that doesn't mean, what I love about this is it creates a framework to have those conversations with the builders, sit down and decide, yeah, we all agree on this. This is what we're going to do. We all sign on a dotted line and we go make it happen. And I think Sherwood has a great track record of working with developers and working with commercial clients, and bringing in a lot of great new projects into the city. I don't think that'll change. I think some of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that builders have is not because of us, but it's because of what they experience in other cities. But to be fair, there's good actors and bad actors in every category of life, and but that's how I look at this. This is an opportunity to get us to the table, get to an agreement, and do some great projects.
And sorry. I would just say, as we discussed earlier, this gives a framework for that to happen. The applicant isn't required to do the study at the magnet to assume the worst. If they want to come in and say, we're not going to do the worst, I don't even call it the worst, the highest density, we're not going to do that, we're going to do something else, then they can do a study at that lower level for the agreement. Also, I'm really excited about, I think this actually gives us an opportunity to do that partnership and collaboration earlier in the process, so that it's not a combative, experience in the planning process. This can actually be, because it's not a quasi judicial process like going through the planning application of the planning board is, it's the legislative process. Like, a lot of work can happen up front between staff and the applicants, and ultimately, through planning commission and this body and the approval process, where we can actually have that give and take and that collaboration, because I want that too. I don't want to be combative with our developers. I want to work together with them. And so I think this actually is a tool that will allow us to do that better, because the formal planning process doesn't really allow for a lot of that. It's a very rigid judicial, quasi judicial format that doesn't really allow for as much of that. So I think that gives me some excitement about this. And I just wanted to clarify my comment earlier. I am fully in support of having a range of housing, or housing available at a wide range of price points in Sherwood. I just want to be clear on what we have and haven't adopted formally as, you know, as a policy. And I think the term affordable housing has a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. And so I don't like using that term personally, because it has a lot of different definitions that some people may agree with, some people may not, but it also may depend on which definition of that term you're looking at. So I just want to say I do support a range of housing, but we do also need to have a policy conversation about what, if we have an official policy on that front, we probably need to get that conversation at some point.
What does it look like? Where's the
Yeah.
best place for it? All that fun stuff.
Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these annexation agreements, I agree with Doug, give us a lot more flexibility, but they're gonna be tied, you know, to getting what's in our comprehensive plan, which we'll have to do that process first, for Sherwood West. And then it allows us to hopefully get the outcome that we want over there from our concept plan. Hopefully our comprehensive plan is aligned with our concept plan for the most part, and then developers know what we are wanting out there, and hopefully that's what we'll be working with them on to achieve that, those goals, so.
Renee?
So I'm in agreement with what mostly has been said up here. I wanted to add a little bit more color to or rephrase what I heard Taylor say, because I too have had conversations with developers. Our tendency sometimes, because we see worst case scenario, or we're thinking about the what ifs, is the vernacular that we use when we're on the dais or in a work session is sometimes pointing the developers as negative. And I think that is not conducive to partnership. So I would caution us as we're having the worst case scenario conversations that we are just mindful of the verbiage that we're using.
I think that's a good call out. I think I've been guilty of that at times. I would just want to say that my ire is completely on Salem. I don't really have any reason to have any bad feelings toward any particular developers. I'm just frustrated with Salem that they're taking away all of our ability and all of our residents' ability to have any part of this process and make any decisions and decide what they want Sherwood to be or not to be going forward. So any frustration that appears like I'm directing negativity towards developers, it's not my intent. It's really about Salem, and that's frustrating to me. And I apologize to anyone if they've taken that the wrong way.
But
Yeah.
Salem has given the developers a lot more tools to come in and
The balance of
upset our apple cart with what our citizens want for our community based on the 5+ years we've been working on that concept plan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would go back, you know, there's good actors and bad actors. You know, we had a developer that wanted to put a 90-unit apartment building in with no parking, you know, and came up with very creative legal rationales for why that made sense. Of course, about that. But there's also some great developers out there. I just, I go back to, I agree with Doug. I heard it over and over in Salem as we were advocating, you know, that you just need to trust the developers. And I would say all the time, there are some great developers, but there's also some that aren't so great and don't care about what our community looks like in 20 years. Yeah, some of the local companies are great. Some of the big national private equity backed companies, not so much.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm really with Renee on this. It's the tone and how we talk, and I love what Doug said about you know, wanting to be a partner, right? And using this as a tool, because the ones that I've talked to have said, you know, we want to build, you know, what's going to make Sherwood beautiful for the next, you know, X amount of years, right? And what they want and all of the other stuff. It was not about, and so that's the thing, is that I would love to point to Salem and say, hey, look what happened. You know, look at this awesome thing that we did because a city and a builder got together and they both got what they wanted out of this. And, you know, so take a step back and trust us to do what's right for our area and our city, right? You know, and I would love to be able to point to that as a win, because we did work with the people who are the experts in terms of, building things. I don't really know how to do that at scale. And so anyway, that's my goal, is just to make sure that they hear loud and clear that conversation is open, and that we are, especially the Home Builders Association, thank you for this. But, and I love it, Doug, that I totally agree that we, so there's certain stuff that we have to assume the worst case, unless you're gonna come in and say, well, I'm committing to build lesser density, and so we can do smaller pipes. So
I think, as I've talked to Salem on these bills that we're referring to, is we all want certainty, right? And with certainty means accountability for both sides. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve with this annexation code. I think we had a few very specific things that happened in Portland and happened in some other jurisdiction. So Salem writes a lot and covered the whole state. So we're the pendulum swung too far, in my opinion. So I think I agree with Doug. A lot of my frustration was with Salem over this, but it's hard to have a conversation about why these bills are bad without talking about the potential abuse that can happen with bills. But I agree with you on the tone, 100%. So.
The leadership change.
Any other comments? All right, well, we can't take action tonight, so we'll go ahead and, when are we meeting again on this? This would be first meeting in September? September 2nd, so we'll bring this back up on September 2nd. And we will move right into the city manager report. Craig. I'm sorry.
Do we need?
Sorry, Eric. Did you have a question?
Oh, it's on. Just in terms of the hearing procedures, do we need to get through, I don't know if you have a script up there, we can probably get you one, get through, accept public testimony as well for this hearing.
We did.
We already did.
I'm sorry, we did.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I already
You did.
closed.
Was it before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in our discussion phase, but thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Craig.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a couple things. Tonight, National Night Out was attended well tonight. I think the chief just told me we had 320 hot dogs, as well as the dunk tank was very successful.
Did
As
you
well
pay
as
320?
No, he participated
19.
19. So as well as the band was played a variety of music over there. I think it was a good night for strengthen the relationship between the community and our police department. So you got anything to add on that, chief? Okay, thank you. Thanks for giving me the numbers. Thanks for giving me
Was
the
the chief in the dunk tank?
No, because I had to come here.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, you know what? Next year we can get a sub. Make sure you're in the tank next year.
You can have one of your captains come over next year so you
Yeah.
can stay over there.
Yeah.
fundraiser.
There you go. Should sell that at the auction, the dunk the chief.
It's better.
A couple
Oh,
other
that
things. Movies in the park start this Friday night, 8:15 to 8:45, somewhere in that range, at Stella Olson Park. I do want to let you know, we did apply for a $500,000 grant with the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. Applications were due yesterday and we submitted, and it's for the cannery restoration project. Since that project total project cost is over 7 million. We got the 5 million grant. This is a $500,000 for the restoration part of it. So it's just, again, looking for money where we can go after it. As far as there's no council meeting on the 19th, so the next meeting will be September 2nd. I just want to take a little bit to talk about what's that? Oh, September 2nd. I just want to talk about the bridge. So we're looking to open the bridge on the 26th of August. It's not going to be completely perfect. There's still going to be punch list items. A lot's got to happen. We've had problems with our handrail, illuminated handrail. We'll make a decision. It's supposed to all be here on the 20th, and we have it pegged by the hours for the construction crews to actually get it up to be able to open on the 26th, because we also have to have ODOT and Washington County sign off on the bridge on Friday, the 22nd. So there's a lot riding on that date, but that's what we're pushing for. I do want to let you know that the project is coming in under budget as well as on time, which is It's pretty remarkable, right? So even if, we're hoping to have all the rails here by the 1st of October. And we're hoping to have all the rails up except at the entrances on both sides. There has to be some additional work with that. So again, I'll keep you posted, but August 20th, we'll know for certain that they're on site. That's like the dead.
They'll be railings, that just not the finished railings.
It will be temporary rails put up,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
But the actual finished part, if anything gets delayed, we'll know by the 20th of this month. So I'll keep you posted. We have to have it by that time to be everything, the last phase is installed. So I also want to let you know next Wednesday, they'll be doing a lighting, the initial lighting out there. If you want to go out there between 8 and 2 in the morning, somewhere between that. That could get moved. So if you're interested, reach out and let me know. It could get moved around, but that's where we're at right now. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the stretch to be able to have it open on the 26th. And then Kristen and Sarah are working on the grand ribbon cutting for the 27th of September. So that's where we're at on the project. So more to come in the next couple of weeks. But I do know that there's a lot of concrete that's still got to go down. There's a lot of work. You'll have some temporary lighting also. So just because we have to have lighting that won't be in the temporary handrail, but once it's open, it'll be opened and the contractor will still be working out there, closing off small parts of the project, but it'll be open for the public once we open it. We don't want to open it and then close it again. So
Phenomenal job. Please extend my thanks, and I'm assuming council's thanks to staff, the engineering teams, our contractors. Because I mean, how often do you hear that on time and under budget for a government capital project?
I mean, we talked about some.
Sherwood.
Only in Sherwood.
Team's done a great job. Talked about substantial completion in September. We pushed for the August, the week, before school started. Just a lot of stuff's got to come together, but I feel pretty confident if for some reason we can't open it that week, it'll be open first part of September. So more to come on that.
Awesome. Great job.
And I think that is it.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff going on, so it's good.
Awesome. All right, council comments. Dan, you want to start tonight?
Sure. I just wanted to say thank you to staff and volunteers for putting on music on the green this year. I attended a few of those and they seemed well attended and everybody's had a great time. It was very fun. We could hear it from our backyard as well some of the nights when it was still, so it was fun. The Traffic Safety Board had its first official meeting. It was converted recently from a Traffic Safety Committee. And the goal of that was to have a little bit more communication between their board and city council, so we know kind of what these traffic safety issues are before they kind of drag on too long. And they do a lot. I was looking through previous minutes, getting ready for the first meeting, and many things are happening. I didn't realize how much they're actually doing as opposed to just the city, although there is plenty of city staff there as well to help understand what these requests, what we can do with them. We had citizens come in and comment, and I would love for that to continue. It's council meetings as well. We only know what we know here. So bring your comments. Yeah, it was great. I'm excited to see what we can do. There isn't really anything for us at this moment. Still trying to figure out what is pertinent for the city council to know about and what isn't, as far as like a stop signs going in at this intersection. I don't know that we need to know that, but stuff is getting done and staff has been great working with them, it seems. So it's yeah, keep you updated, and that's all I have.
Awesome, thanks.
Parks Board last night was pretty,
Just a lot of like discussion. Sand and water feature at Snyder Park. A perpetual source of issues and challenges. So there's a lot of discussion around that. Great job, parks addressing those issues when they arise. Staff's done a great job trying to educate the public on the concerns and dangers. Water
into the sandbox, sand becomes big mud puddle, quicksandy, it's quite dangerous. Or can be, so. And then it also causes obviously maintenance issues with the water feature itself. So it's a good discussion on that. I think some tree stuff, not too many tree removals this month, just a couple. So dead trees, bad trees, they're not healthy. And then, yeah, I think that was it. And there's no, next Parks Board meeting will be not the first Monday in September because that's Labor Day. So it'll be the following Monday in September. So that was good. And I think that's all I have today.
Awesome. Thanks. Renee.
None of my assignments have met. I think the biggest thing that I'm excited about is the Youth Advisory Council, and thank you for being here tonight. I'm super excited to work with you all going forward. We've got a great group of young people that are passionate about their community and making a difference. So I think that's my big news. Everything else has been covered so far.
We have a first meeting date.
We do not. Not yet.
All right, Planning Commission went over this annexation code public hearing policy, or so you just heard about that, got up to speed on that.
We hit it twice.
Yeah, so the work group, I went to the Housing Actions Work Group, the DLCD Committee on Housing. A lot of good stuff in there, some stuff that just doesn't apply to Sherwood. So I reached out to some of the consultants that were on that, and they sent me some additional materials and put me in contact with several builders and organizations like, we all know about Habitat for Humanity or others that are trying to do different innovative housing things. And so I've just been getting smart on that. I'll share any findings with the council on that if you want, or share them with the city manager. And then I also was invited to the Taiwanese Association of Greater Portland. They had their summer activity here in Sherwood, and we've got some phenomenal businesses. I didn't know, just right up here on the base of Parrot Mountain, the guy who was hosting the party has a factory in Tualatin that makes batteries for the home. And so they were all, and he was showing me, he's got one attached to his van that he was doing demos with, but they're made here in Tualatin, and they're phenomenal. It looks, they're smart, so they can, he said you can give back power to PGE when it's expensive, and you can charge your car when it's cheap and stuff like that. And so he said, just putting one of those in drops your bill by $100 or more a month. But anyway, it was great. They had great food, great activities, things like that. I went to the West Side Economic Alliance fundraiser. That's where I met with several of the other building groups and development groups. Let's see what else. Oh, I attended the Washington County Commissioners meeting. It got a little bit heated. It was mostly discussing the what's that?
Library?
Nope, that wasn't what it was heated about.
It
was about repealing some of their DEI stuff, and I understand the tough spot they're being put in, and frankly, it is a terrible spot to be put in because as cities, we're kind of we don't have millions and millions of dollars to absorb getting funds cut off, and so it's sad, I think, when some of these projects like a homeless shelter or something like that are facing getting funds cut off. And so it got very heated, and frankly, I don't think there's a great answer to it. So I appreciate the difficult position they're in, but just know that your voices are welcome at those meetings as well as the Metro meetings. There was probably about, I'm going to say 30 people that showed up to that meeting. So anyway, that's all for me.
Yeah. The day after our last meeting, I attended an awesome swearing in at the police station. So this wasn't new officers, but this was promotions. Very well deserved. Officer Corey Jentz was promoted from sergeant to captain. It's going to be a great captain. And this was a new one that was promoted to Sergeant Caraway. Sergeant Caraway. He was a lateral transfer to us not long ago, a couple year or two. I remember his original swearing in. So, so that's great that we have people that are able to fill in these positions as we have more retirements coming. We have a lot of new officers. National Night Out was tonight. It was a great event. We had a great turnout. Cooked all the hot dogs after I left. They got rid of them all. The band was great, and people just love coming out to that event. It was beautiful weather, not too hot. Kids playing in the water, families sitting on the grass listening to the band. We had hot dogs, chips. We had otter pops for the kids, face painting for the kids, and the dunk boot water. What's that called? Dunk tank. That some of our officers went in. So. And
But not the chief.
but not the chief. We could have got the mayor.
Oh, no one wants to see that.
They would have probably came out in droves probably to dunk you. Last night we had a Region 1 area commission on transportation meeting, and it was all about a big discussion on traffic safety and how to make safer roads, make it safer for bicyclists and walkers and all the components that are on our roadways, sharing it and what that looks like in traffic safety plans. So that will be all I have for tonight.
Awesome, thank you. I have a couple of things. I too went to the swearing in. That was great. It's great to see us promoting from within and building upon all that experience that we have with our amazing officers over there. The National Night Out was once again amazing and a fun event. I got to see a lot of people I don't get to see all the time down there, which is great. A big shout out to, I think someone already mentioned, the Music on the Green series has been amazing. Sharon and I have been tried to be regulars down there, and tomorrow night is Johnny Limbo and the Lugnuts. For those in my generation, probably remember
60s,
them.
70s, 80s.
Yeah, probably remember them big. They were big in Portland for years and years and years. This is their last year playing together, so might be the last chance to see them. So that's tomorrow night, which is great. At the Robin Hood Festival, which was amazing. Got to go down and read the proclamation opening up the season, but I just great crowds, great weather. It just felt very family. It was amazing. Really enjoyed that. Just kind of green. Then on to kind of some business things. I'm going to be going to the Oregon Mayor's Association meeting in Baker. They have their summer conference in Baker in a couple weeks. So that should be interesting. It's a chance for all the mayors to collaborate on statewide issues that affect cities. What else am I missing here? Oh, and then yesterday was the party on the plaza, which was another great event that the Main Street organization put on. So they took over the Robin Hood Plaza, and just a really nice family vibe. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a very complimentary event to some of the other events that we have.
Great turnout too.
An amazing turnout. They had good music and great food and lots of vendors down there. And it's interesting. There's a lot of people that run businesses out of their house that I would have never known about without these kind of events down there. So that was kind of fun to see that. So, and then on the less exciting and fun stuff, we have the governor's called session on transportation here coming up. So we're going to be meeting with our lobbyists to talk about if we need to be weighing in on some transportation bills. Why it's so important for Sherwood is transportation dollars that are collected by the state. So that's like the gas tax, DMV fees, registration fees and stuff. There's a long-standing rule that it's split 50, 30, 20. 50% goes to the state, 30 to counties, and 20s to cities. So it's real important that we protect that rule as they're looking at funds. The stopgap bill the governor tried to push through at the end of the last session was going to raise the gas tax but give it all to the state. So that was one of the reasons most cities and counties opposed that bill. So we'll be following that closely and weighing in as appropriate. as a city on that, just to protect our revenue streams coming into the city. And I think I'll leave it at that. It's summertime, so a lot of the regional stuff's not happening right now, so. Anything else for the good of the order? With that, we are adjourned.
Sticking it through. Stayed the whole